Simplexity is a Danish designer and manufacturer of high-grade sim racing platforms. Their 3 different levels of platforms come in a variety of colors and configurations. Choose from the V4, built from 40 by 40mm extruded aluminium profiles, the V8 built from 80 by 40mm profiles, and the high-tier V12 built from 160 by 40mm extruded aluminium profiles. Prices range from 470 to 750 euros. Go to facebook.com/simplexity.eu and start a messenger chat to inquire more about the options for colors and customization.
Communication. It started out as a conversation between two people, but as time went by and people's needs became greater, they developed more ways to communicate. Businesses today need to minimize incomplete connections. Therefore, it is critical that they provide optimal service. Xilinx desktop, mobile and web applications can process everything from normal calls and callbacks to chats, emails, and social media inquiries. Let Xilinx liberate your business.
For climbers, there is Everest. For underwater explorers, the Titanic. For surfers, the North Shore. For drivers, there's the Nürburgring.
This is the world's most challenging racetrack. 154 bends, 20.83 kilometers. Too dangerous for Formula One. No wonder Jackie Stewart called it the Green Hell. So what is it that brings us back here? What drives us to go faster, to push harder and brake later? I guess it's what we do. It's what we've always done.
The Nürburgring's a very special place. You know, in the Nürburgring you've got problems that never do exist in any other racetrack in the world. First of all, it's 14.7 miles round. It used to have 187 corners per lap. So there's left-handers, right-handers, you're going uphill, you're going downhill. It's really a compromise, the whole thing, as far as the car is concerned, and to some extent also the driver. Because every lap I do at the Nürburgring, I make a mistake. I never go through the Nürburgring feeling that I've achieved something in the way of the perfect lap. Half the places around the Nürburgring, I think if I were to walk around them, I would be horrified. I would never drive around the place again. So the faster you drive around the ring, the less you know. And maybe that's the best thing to do.
The Nürburgring 24-hour race is like not just like the older race, like the older 24-hour race. We all love Le Mans, we all know the history behind Le Mans, we're back in 1993. Racing in the Nürburgring is probably just as important and getting more so year on year. There's a part of all of us who likes to think that we are ring kings. You can put down your 24 euros and take out whatever car you brought here, whether it's an SUV, whether it's a van, an estate car, or a high-performance sports car, and you can go out there and pitch yourself against the track.
Track full of elevation changes, difficult to remember every turn, any of them flying.
Umpteen dozen changes of surface and camber and what have you. Very pretty in some ways, very scenic, very green, very German looking. You get bends that go down, you get bends that go up, and it just goes on forever and ever and ever. It's the most complicated road in the world.
From 200 cars, 27 brands, 10 factory teams, 783 drivers, and over 250,000 real racing fans fill the grandstands of the Nürburgring Grand Prix track and the wooded hills of the historic Nordschleife race. You feel how this race absorbs the racing, grabs the passion, and transcends other races to become an event, a happening.
Yeah, the Nordschleife, one of the hardest tracks but one of the tracks that the drivers want to test themselves against, to remember each and every turn. Get it wrong, and it's over. Wishing your teammates luck and just hoping that they get the car back in one piece, minimise the damage, seeing whether ready for your next stint. And then the pressure's on you, get the car back in one piece, try and go faster, try and brake later, or back in one piece.
Welcome to the 24 hours of the Nürburgring by GTR24H, and we are here in qualifying. We've already been going for just over 30 minutes at the moment. Some times are already on the board, but this is one of the best races you can have on the calendar. We got the GT3s, or otherwise known as the SP9s. And then we also have the Porsche Cup, which is also known as the SP7. So we've got two classes around here. We've got 24 cars out here as well for qualifying, and there is still just over 2 hours left. But we are looking at Ernest Lappins as he comes towards the end of his lap. He's currently sitting in 3rd position, just 1.9 seconds off around this unbelievably long track, 25 kilometers. There's always the chance that you can make a mistake and lose the tiniest bit of time, and it's ever so more important considering the track is that long. And he just goes to 2nd place, only 1.5 tenths off Henry Sinnick, who is currently sitting at the top of the times for Drillers Esport. So there's plenty of stuff to talk about here at the Nürburgring. Obviously, as we said, it's one of the best tracks in the world. There's not too many people who would deny that. It's not always the favourite of the drivers because it is very tricky, but it is certainly very fun, especially in these GT3 cars, where you get a load of downforce and quite a lot of power down the straights as well. And this track is really a mixture of corners and straights, open flowing sections and tight twisties. It's literally got absolutely everything, and I'm sure if you don't know all of the corner names, we'll try and run you through some as we go through, but there are quite a few of them, so don't hold your breath on learning every single one of them. There's quite a few teams here to look out for, and currently the top 14 are covered by 13 seconds. And 13 seconds sounds like a lot, but because this track is somewhere in the region of 5 times longer than most other tracks that you would go to, you can sort of divide the gap differences by 5, and then that is really how close you're going to get. And as mentioned earlier, even if you just make a small mistake here, that can actually cost you quite a bit of time, because it's so difficult to actually get that time back once you've already lost it, especially in some of these corners. They're just so tricky and so difficult, and you really have to make sure that you nail the apexes and the corners. And I'm sure the drivers have put in a decent amount of practice. Sign up for this has been open for a few weeks now, so you'd hope that most of them have learnt the track and learnt all the corners and know exactly where all the apexes and braking zones are, but it's still easy to get lost, even in the qualifying session when you're going absolutely flat out. As well as Ballast Kish here, getting held up a little bit by one of the Callaway Corvettes, and that's another thing to consider as well, is the traffic, and also with the 2 classes as well. You can see the Kish is miles quicker than the car ahead, but sometimes that is what happens, and he's actually had to back out of this lap, which is that's actually a pretty decent first sector that he had going there as well. There's a bit of a shame for him. So let's jump on board with I believe this is the other driller's car of Jamie Tatui. Driller's got two cars here. They have the 777 and the 999, and that's quite a good entry for these drillers cars. I've known them for quite a few years now. In the 777, they got Henry Sinnick, Martin Hemmingson, and Jan Grankvist. That is a very talented team, I have to say. So they will be looking good for the potentially the win here. And as we've already seen, he is already on the pole position with the 777, but the car that Tatui's in is actually, the 888 is with himself. Then he's got Seb Hansen, Patrick Rusnik, and also Jerry Vrolick. So that's kind of their junior team. It is called the Drillers Academy, so you would expect them maybe to be slightly further behind, but Jamie hasn't set a lap yet, so I have to see what he can do when he starts setting some laps in. And another car I'd like to look out for is this car. The number 69 is the Butler Powell entry. Butler Powell is a team run by Reddy Butler, who is involved with Studio 397, who are the developers of R Factor 2, which this race is being held on. And that's actually a real life team. They run many laps around here in real life, so it's good to see that they've brought a car to the 24 hours of the Nürburgring here. And this is, you can't really miss this car. It's bright blue, got the number 69 on the side of it. And currently Michael Rowland is in the car coming through the middle part of the lap up to the carousel. And so far in the first sector, he was only about 1.5 seconds off, despite that first sector being over 4 minutes long. So it is quite interesting to see that despite the track being so long, the times actually stay pretty close. And there are plenty of good teams and good drivers out here. So I'm expecting this to be a pretty fierce race, although it is 24 hours. Which means that you have to get to the end. It's not just about being fastest here in this qualifying session. One thing to note with it being a 24-hour race is getting to the end is probably going to be the most important thing. I mean, there are plenty of cars about. I think there's 24, but once the race starts spreading out, there's probably going to be a lot of times where you're driving on your own and not directly fighting for a position. You might be trying to catch someone down, you might be trying a slightly different strategy. So keeping it on that tarmac is what you have to be able to do. And just stay out of that pit lane. That is really your only goal here. Just stay out of that pit lane, don't hit the fence, don't hit other cars, and try and get yourself to the end of the race. Especially as we're expecting some rain, to be honest. I don't know exactly when it's going to come, but we are expecting some rain during potentially even the qualifying session here today, but also the race, and that could just mix up everything. About a year and a half ago now, I personally did another 24 hours of the Nürburgring, and it rained overnight and it was just carnage. So many people started making silly mistakes because not only are they tired, but then they have less grip on the surface as well. I must be now seeing Michael come out here onto the Döttinger Höhe, which is well over 3 kilometers of just flat out straight line speed, and see what your car's got in a straight line. He's currently doing a personal best in the middle sector as well. And the middle sector is just under 3 minutes. So over 4 minutes for the first sector, just under 3 minutes for the second sector. There's plenty of time in those sectors to be able to win or lose. But then the final sector is basically just this, the Döttinger Höhe down to Tiergarten, I believe it's called, this final chicane, and then you come back out onto the GP track, which is very famous for its more conventional corners. And we can see where Michael puts the Butler Powell 69 McLaren. Interestingly, this is the 650S, so this is the older chassis McLaren, but they have chosen, and that is the chassis that they want. They've got up to 4th position with that one, and he's going to back out and jump into pit box, get a drink, and probably go out in a few minutes' time. There's plenty of time, as we mentioned, for them to be able to set their lap times. With that threat of rain, you can see the skies are very dark and cloudy, so I wouldn't be surprised if anything happens. And then, really, if it starts raining, that's going to be the fight for pole position pretty much done, because you're not going to go quicker. But that is something that we will have to look out for as the session continues. And this here is a car that is very, well, very good to be precise. If I'm not mistaken, they won the 12 Hours of Sebring that we had back in March. The Musto GT Esports, currently with Tiziano Brioni in the car, who got pole position for them in that race. Unbelievably quick driver. I've had the pleasure of racing against him as well a couple of years ago, and he is a very nice guy. And yeah, his speed that he gets out of these GT cars especially is very, very good. Certainly a GT specialist is Brioni, as he also comes now out onto the Fitting her to come all the way down this run. And it's just one of those moments where you just have to sit there and wait. So just hope that you've set up your car good in a straight line. But it's not all about the straight line speeds, because you have 180 other corners to navigate. So you need your car to be very stable through there, and you won't necessarily see the teams be running the lowest wing settings. It probably still be fairly low, but not at the absolute lowest, because you do need to have some nice stability, especially as you come into this this final chicane. It gets really bumpy there as you then come through the kink. Get it slowed down. He is currently on, I believe, a purple first sector. Personal best middle sector as well. He's only 1 second off the top at the moment, as he's going to come towards the line as we just head to 2 hours to go in the session. And he goes to pole position by 7/10, or yeah, about 7/10 of a second. So yeah, the Musto GT Esports cars looking very good with their McLaren there. We need to see if Henry Sinek can respond, but he's not. At least he's not currently setting any sector times at the moment. So we now jumped on board the number 27 Sim Racing Motorsports car, also in the SP9 category here. Oh, as he goes a little bit wide there, and he's going to spin there down the hill. And that is not what you want to be doing on your quali lap, because it is such a long out lap. And possibly a commentator's curse there, just jumping on board with him, and 10 seconds later he's crashing. But yeah, so we got him there. Hopefully he can have a bit of a better run on his next lap. Currently sitting there in 10th position at the moment. So Henry Sinek is now out on a lap to try and retake the pole position, or provisional pole position I should say. Still plenty of time for people to improve. He's currently done a time of the first sector that is about a second or so off what Brioni did, but often cars are set up for slightly different parts of the track potentially, as you want to try and make the car feel as comfortable as possible, especially around here. And I was doing some laps in the BMW M6 GT3 car, which is one of the options here at the AFP car, currently sitting in third, because they did ask me to essentially do some stints with them. So I was doing some laps, and one thing I noticed about this track is it is unbelievably bumpy, especially on the latter part of the track. Sort of the area that we're coming into now, it starts to get really bumpy, so to set up the car for these bumps is very important. I should want the car to be as comfortable and as nice as possible. You need to be able to push as much as you can. As we mentioned earlier, I mean, obviously in qualifying you're going to be pushing to the limit, but once we get into the race at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, you want to be pushing right just under the limit, just enough that you're going quickly, and not enough that you're going to be causing any sort of accident, as Sake now comes up to the famous YouTube corner, as many like to call it. And I managed to do a lap of the Nürburgring a couple of years ago, back in 2018, when I drove there from the UK. And that corner, I see why so many people crash there, because it is so slippery. But obviously in a GT3 car, you don't have that many issues, as you got a load of grip and quite a lot of aero downforce as well. So you come through the Stefan Bellos S here right at the end. Such a nice fun part. All of it is flat out as you go through the kinks. Awesome part of the track where you really feel the speed as you come pretty much to the end of the lap. Because as you get to this point, there's only really 3 corners left, but there's still about 4 or 5 kilometers to go. It's quite an interesting aspect of the lap order. He's actually going to back out of this one. So he wasn't quite feeling that, and because he didn't make it to the Sector 2 line, which is just on the exit of that next corner, unfortunately didn't get to see what he was doing. We'll jump onto Mathieu Ducrot in the one-move Audi. And it's quite interesting that they take the Audi. There's been quite a lot of talk about it in the R-Factor 2 community, about how it is quite quick on a one-lap basis, but over a stint it's potentially not quite as good with the balance of performance. There's been a little bit of discussion there whether it needs to be improved with its overall race pace. It's interesting that they choose that for this track, but they do. This team, these couple of drivers do love this car, because in this car we have Mathieu Ducrot, who we've got in there at the moment, but also Roy de Munk, and those two, along with a couple of other teammates, did very well in the 12 hours of Sebring we had back in March. Just like the MotoGP Esports car I mentioned earlier were pretty much the fastest in the GTEs in the GT3 category that day. It was this car, although they were racing for B32 in that race, but it's still Ducrot and de Munk, and they've been good friends for quite a while. I've had the pleasure of racing them in some other series as well, some other endurance series. So they've been around for ages. They know each other, and they are very quick, and they really, really do love this Audi. Just seeing, yeah, Ducrot's a few seconds down in that first sector, but we do have to wait quite a while for them to get to this second sector marker. As I said, it is all the way at the start of the Döttinger Höhe, so it's probably about 20 kilometers around the track from the start-finish line, which he's going to come to now, and then we'll be able to see what he's doing. There's some other cars out on track that we'll have a look at in a few months. We'll try and get through as many of the cars as possible throughout the session, so you can get used to their liveries, have a look to see who you might be supporting for the 24 hours, which will, as I just said, is starting at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. I'll see 24 hours, so we'll finish at 2 o'clock on Sunday as well, and that is Central European time. De Munk did a personal best in that middle sector, and yeah, it's looking like a pretty solid lap so far. And one thing I want to see for some of these drivers is if they're going to do multiple laps in a row, or if they are going to basically do like one lap, go back to pit, one lap, go back to the pit. Because if you do a second lap, you will have to carry more fuel, and fuel around here is obviously quite a lot for a whole lap. So where does Ducrot put himself? Does he improve? Yes, he goes up to 4th position. So that is pretty good, a 3.8, so that is 2.5 seconds off the current pole position time. We still have 1 hour 52 minutes, so still plenty of time for him to be able to get an improved lap. And yeah, it is pretty crazy. If you look at the top cars, they're all very, very close together, and that is probably just a sign of the how close the race is going to be. I'm sure there's going to be a number of cars fighting for the win over the 24-hour period. I'd be very surprised if someone just goes out and leads from the front. Exactly. This Jamie's really sliding it through these corners, isn't he? I wonder if they got a little of an oversteery setup. Sliding again, coming through these medium speed corners. Generally, a bit of oversteering the car will help the qualifying times, because you can get it rotated that little bit quicker, which generally means you can get up the power a little bit earlier. These SP9s do have ABS and traction control built in, with various settings that the drivers can tweak. I believe there's 10 settings on each. Oh, he goes really wide here. Would have lost a couple of thousandths of a second coming through there, and he's actually lifted off, so I think he's going to be backing out of this lap, and yeah, he goes back to the pits there. So one car I wanted to actually check up with is the ground effect car. We've currently got Jos Araneda in the car, and he is someone that I've known since 2017, so 3 years now that I've known him, and he is a very quick driver indeed. I mostly know him from the open wheel side of things, but in recent times Ground Effect, which is actually a team which is owned by Jos's dad, Jose. So it's sort of those two guys running the team. They've started to enter loads of different series, which is good to see, especially on the endurance side of things. They're getting used to it, used to that sort of racing, because it is a little bit different to the more sprint format. But Jos is certainly someone that I do have high hopes for being quite quick here today, as he comes through the final couple of corners. He's currently 5 seconds off the pace, but as you mentioned before, because this track is like 5 laps longer, you can generally cut that down a bit. So he's probably at about a second off the pace on a normal lap. And does he manage to improve? I think he has, but he hasn't actually improved his position there. He's got a 8 minute 5.9. And someone who, I can't remember who it was now. I think it might be Martin Hemmingson in the Drillers car, actually got into the 7 minutes. I think it was a 7:59 that he managed to do in the practice session, as Balash Kish just goes up into 4th position with a 3.5. So nice job for the 1-2-3 machine there. And interestingly, they've got the Aston Martin there, which is not always a favourable GT3. Since there was because basically when the Aston came out, it was easily the best GT3, so everyone was choosing it all in competitions. And then there was a BOP brought out a few months ago, and now it is not necessarily the fastest car. So it's interesting that people choose it, but we do have a wide range here. As you see, we've got the Corvette with Daniele Vidamari, and this Corvette is actually pretty amazing. It's been around for quite a while. So many teams seem to love it, especially in GTR24H. It must be a favourite for some of these guys. Seen Tony Jensen come across the line, but he was 3 seconds down on his fastest lap time. So yeah, not quite as good a lap, and he will have to go out again and try and set a new lap, as Matt Webb went across the line to start his lap. So we can see what the GP track looks like. Obviously, mostly in the qualifying session, generally focus on the sort of the latter part of the lap as you see people finish. So you don't always get a look at this GP track, which is, well, in my opinion, it's a very good circuit. It's one of the better ones in the world. It's quite fast, it's quite flowing, and it's quite interesting to add this onto the Nordschleife, because it really is a mixture of sort of a modern track with modern safety standards, runoff areas, all that sort of stuff. And then you head out immediately onto the Nordschleife and you're faced with a concrete wall right in front of you. So it's quite an interesting change there that you have to do. But obviously all the drivers will be pretty used to that by now. You come out onto this back straight, which has actually got a kink in it, which is quite interesting for it being a straight. But then you come to this very, very quick chicane to end the GP track. About third or fourth gear for most of these cars. And they're all over the curbs. And I think he's actually going to be backing out of this lap, which is a bit of a shame. It's always good to see people finish the laps, because he's going to have to go out and do another 8 or 9 minute out lap. And try and get back out there for another lap. As we'll jump on board with Jesper Pedersen. And he is driving for Burst Esport. So it's good to see that Burst have come here. And I've saw in their driver lineup that they've got also Jernej Simičić and David Mrocek, which is interesting, because they are two very, very, very quick R-Factor 2 drivers. They are in most of the top R-Factor 2 esports events and competitions. That's quite good to see that they are getting involved here as well in the number 94 machine. And where does Jesper Pedersen have? He goes up into pole position. Wow, 8/10 quicker than Brioni. And Pedersen there getting a really nice lap in that BMW. There may be Burster one to look out for. We have to see how that one goes for them. And we will jump on board now, actually, with Cavanio, who is in the Porsche Cup, the SP7 category. We've got 2 entries into this. We've got Drive Game Seat, and we also have HM Engineering. Both of them, I believe, with fairly good lineups as well. Especially the HM Engineering car. I know pretty much all of those drivers. They've got P. Weeks, Leitner, and Stanley. But we will have a look at them in a moment, and we'll stay on board with the Drive Game Seat entry. So a couple of these drivers I haven't heard of, but they do have Francesco Morante and Ezio Gazzola, who I know. In fact, Ezio, I've done a 24 hours of Nürburgring with him, and unfortunately he did crash the car, so hopefully there's no repeat of that, as there was a couple of years ago when I did a race here with him. He was doing the night stint, so I went to sleep for a couple of hours. I woke up and we were out of the race. So yeah, hopefully Ezio has better luck here for the GTR Nürburgring 24 hours. And they've also got Filippo Caneo, as well as Samuel, as who we are on board with at the moment. So bit of differences between the cars. So this is the Porsche Cup car that you will see, for instance, in the Porsche Super Cup and things like that in real life, and all the Porsche regional championships. And it is a little bit slower than a GT3 car. I believe it also doesn't have traction control, which is quite an interesting one, because the drivers will then have to be modulating the throttle pedal to try and not spin up those rears and overheat them. And it's just a little bit of a dynamic. It is a little bit slower. Jordan Weeks is currently in that HM car, and they are 25 seconds off the pace. So if you put that down to a normal lap, you're going to be looking at sort of 5, maybe upwards of 10 seconds a lap slower than a GT3 on a regular track. So they are a little bit slower, but still pretty quick nevertheless. And I believe in an absolute straight line, these cars are slightly quicker than the GT3s as well, because they have less aero bits on there, so a lot less drag, as they do a 8:38. So that's actually quite a way off. That's 13 seconds off Jordan Weeks in that HM Engineering car. So yeah, maybe he'll be able to improve, as we still got an hour and 42 minutes to go of the qualifying session. But we will take a quick break, a quick commercial break, and we'll be back in a few minutes to run you through the rest of qualifying here at the Nürburgring.
Communication. It started out as a conversation between two people, but as time went by and people's needs became greater, they developed more ways to communicate. Businesses today need to minimize incomplete connections. Therefore, it is critical that they provide optimal service. Xilinx desktop, mobile and web applications can process everything from normal calls and callbacks to chats, emails, and social media inquiries. Let Xilinx liberate your business.
Simplexity is a Danish designer and manufacturer of high-grade sim racing platforms. Their 3 different levels of platforms come in a variety of colors and configurations. Choose from the V4, built from 40 by 40mm extruded aluminium profiles, the V8, built from 80 by 40mm profiles, and the high-tier V12, built from 160 by 40mm extruded aluminium profiles. Prices range from 470 to 750 euros. Go to facebook.com/simplexity.eu and start a messenger chat to inquire more about the options for colors and customization.
And the car actually jumps a little bit as you come out of the little rise out of the carousel. And then coming up here to what I would say is the funnest part. The next few kilometers through all these twisty sections up to the start of the Nürburgring Ho is probably some of the best corners in the world, especially when you're in a very high grip, high downforce car. You've got qualifying fuel on, and you've got a driver who's trying to go for pole position. It is an awesome experience, and it's just amazing seeing the onboards of these cars coming flying through these corners. So yeah, it's quite amazing. And one thing that De Krop, who is currently driving the one move car here, one thing he's always had is connection issues. We'll put it that way. He seems to unfortunately disconnect from races or have some various bad luck. So we do wish him well for this 24 hours. And something we actually haven't mentioned so far is there is €1,000 for the winner of the SP9 category. So plenty of cash to fight for these teams. So that is also going to push them that little bit harder to try and get an improved result and try and get that win. That win does depend on having a fairly clean run and a fairly safe race as well, because you obviously don't want to be putting it in the wall, especially in the first 18 hours of the race. You don't need to do much apart from getting your position, and it's really the last 4, 5, 6 hours where you're going to want to start pushing like a madman to try and get up those positions. And you got to come all the way down this long Nürburgring Ho, and Krop hasn't improved on his own time in the middle sector. He does have just over 3 seconds to find to get up to the burst car currently on pole position. Coming into the wonderful Tiergarten for another time. Then comes out onto the GP track to finish his lap, and we can see where he is going to go as Jamie Tatui jumps up into 5th place, finally setting a lap. Well, where does De Krop put himself? I think he stayed in the same position actually, although he improved by a little bit. But yeah, Jamie Tatui there going up into 5th place, finally setting a lap, as he was having a few issues with his previous laps. Took him well about an hour to actually, well, an hour and 15 minutes to finally set a lap. And we're back on board now with Michael Rowland, who we mentioned earlier for the Butler Power Motorsports number 69 in their now old gen McLaren, but still a very competitive car in this GT3 field. Always quite an interesting one for these drivers, as I haven't counted, but I know it's something in the region of about 45 seconds of just flat out driving, coming all the way down to finish your lap. But don't get too bored, as you have to get the braking right for this very tricky chicane with those tyre barriers right in front of you if you go off. And Rollin has actually done a couple of personal bests in the first 2 sectors. I'd expect an improvement of him to jump up from 9th position. Let's see where he puts himself, and he goes up to 5th position there with a 3.1. So he's still 2.6 seconds off the pole position currently, but he is working his way up the field nicely. And Jos Araneda is also coming into this 3rd sector for the ground effect number 90 machine. Just one more tricky sequence of corners to go, where he's going to big contact with the wall there. Just spun it up on the outside as he clipped the grass, smashed it into the wall, and that would not be an improvement for the ground effect there. Someone to actually do a fairly decent first sector is Balash Kish in the 1-2-3 car. As he is in the middle of the second sector at the moment on the far east side of the circuit, coming through Eschbach, I think that is called. And now to some of the most famous corners on YouTube. And as we mentioned, these guys are actually in the Aston Martin, which is good to see. A nice variety of machinery between these drivers. And this is the Simco entry number 123. And from what I can see, it is an all-Hungarian entry with Kish in the car. And I will try and learn how to pronounce his teammates' names as we go through the session. And we have obviously not got to that Sector 2 line yet at the moment. Just through this second mini carousel. And then up towards the final sector. And when we get to the race session, when there's actually going to be some racing and slipstreaming going on, it'll be interesting to see which GT3 car actually has the best top speed, because I know they all differ a little bit, and that obviously means that some cars will be better in the corners as well. But that'll be interesting to see when we get to the end of the first lap. And on the second screen there, we see we got Pedersen as well, who's a little bit further behind. We'll see what time he manages to do as well. So we'll have a look at him after we see Kish finish his lap. Personal best in the first two sectors. And coming back out onto the start-finish straight. Where can Kish put the 1-2-3 machine as we come into the final 90 minutes? He goes up into 6th place on a 3.2. As it's getting pretty tight there around 5th place. We've got a 3.1, 3.2, 3.4 and a 3.4 also for De Crop. As Pedersen... Yeah, Pedersen actually abandoned his lap, so we'll have a look at Tiziano Brioni coming through the middle sector. He has done a very good first sector indeed. And interestingly, the first sectors here are so long that obviously they're into the minutes. So I've actually got it written down in seconds, so 253 seconds for that first sector. That's actually flashing purple as well, so I believe he's done a very good lap. Sector, I mean, in that first sector. And so far, a few teams have done a driver swap, but not this one. But Brioni is probably the fastest car in this ED Esports car. They got Dufuoco, Liuzzi, and Balasico in this car. And Dufuoco is also another very good talent. I don't know Fabio Liuzzi or Francesco Basilico, so we'll have to see when they get in the cars if they are sort of on the pace. Brioni is certainly a very quick man indeed. So far this seems to be a fairly decent lap by Brioni. He's hitting most apexes that we've been watching him for, and this little jump there, that's awesome. Just have a little jump before you get on the brakes as you come towards the final part of the lap. Such a fast section here, keeping it all flat out through the kinks. Awesome. This actually been a fairly decent lap here by Brioni so far. I would expect this potentially to maybe be an improvement, as James Zuber is on a lap as well. So is Vidamari, but they are 2 and 3 seconds off the pace, as Brioni does a pretty good middle sector as well. So this could be challenging for provisional pole position. He's got a car all the way up the road there. Probably a little bit too far to be getting a slipstream, but also far enough to not be any sort of hassle as he comes towards the braking zone for Tiergarten, which, as he mentioned, over the bumps initially for this little kink can really upset your concentration, as he might actually get a little bit slipstream to the line here from this McLaren in front of him. And this could be a very good third sector for Brioni. Where can he put this Musto GD car? Do they get provisional pole position? Yes, they do. First into the sevens. Look at that, 7 minutes, 59 seconds, .993. What a lap that was from Brioni. First man under the 8-minute barrier. And that is a nice half-second lead that he's got himself as well. That is, yeah, looking pretty good for the Musto car. They are probably some favourites coming into the race. We need to see if they are going to continue that pace once we get to the race. So obviously here you can have a qualifying setup. You can have potentially a driver who feels more comfortable in a qualifying format, because especially in the BMW, for instance, it has 125 litres, so it's quite a big tank. The car feels quite heavy, quite sluggish compared to the qualifying trim. Now we are looking at Vidamari as he comes towards the end. He isn't actually on the best lap that I've ever seen, but he is coming towards the end nevertheless in the number 104 entry. The Pasta alla Norma raging team. Got some decent guys in here. D'Amelio, Callo and Pinataro. So not looking too bad in that team, but they are a little bit off the pace at the moment. As James Zuber just behind goes and improves, but stays in 4th position. I'll jump on board with Paul Holt in the 33 car. Fair Racing team. They got some decent drives in there. They got Pim van Ark, Paul Holt, Tony Jensen, and Max Scholten. They got some decent drives in there. They've been around R-Factor 2 quite a lot in the last couple of years. I know they are quite competent in the LMP2 category. I'm not the most knowledgeable with them in the GT3 category, but they're currently down in 12th, almost 8 seconds off the pace. So yeah, maybe not quite as close in on pace on this GT3 category. But nevertheless, they are actually not too far behind the next car, and every position counts, although qualifying isn't the absolute most important in a 24-hour race, because you crash in the race, that just gets rid of all the hard work that you've done. But definitely getting a good start and getting yourself in a good position boosts your confidence and puts you in a good position to try and get a better position. Especially in these the opening few laps, you want to have just a nice, calm opening few hours. You don't want to have anything too, anything too crazy happening. I suppose actually it's not looking like it's a too bad lap here. Not looking too bad indeed. Someone who's also on a pretty good lap is Henry Cynic. He's a little bit off what Brioni set in that first sector. Cynic as well is on personal best as Paul Holt improves again in that middle sector. 179 seconds. So again, just under 3 minutes for the middle sector. As he works his way towards the final braking point on the track. Now we'll be able to see what he's able to do. So where can Paul Holt? But the Bear Racing car looks like he's going to improve. Currently in 12th position. Is he going to jump up the order? Yes, he jumps up to 10th position. A nice little improvement there from Paul Holt, 8:05, so they're now only 5.2 seconds off the pace. A couple of seconds improvement there. As we just saw the one move car, which now has Roy Demuke in it, going out there. But Henry Cynic is coming towards the end of the lap, so what can Henry Cynic do? 3rd position at the moment. Coming to the line, improves, but he does not improve his position, and just under a second off the pole position at the moment, 3rd place. And something we haven't actually mentioned is the real road. So the track will be rubbering in. The times will get quicker and quicker purely on the grip out there, but because you do so little laps here, because it takes you so long to do the lap, the acceleration of the grip is quite a lot less. So the lap times aren't going to be as crazy towards the end of the session, but they will definitely be quicker. So you want to make sure you get your best drivers in the car towards the end of the 2 hours and 45 minutes, of which we have 1 hour and 18 minutes to go. So we have now officially come into the second half of the qualifying here. We're now on board with Jamie Tatui for the Drillers Academy, the 888. And looking at their entry list, I would say he's possibly their fastest driver, which is kind of obvious why he's out in the qualifying session. But he is also a bit of a LMP2 expert. Has many leagues and series in that car, from my knowledge. As he comes through the final corner, a little bit of a slide, so he's going to lose a few thousandths of a second as he comes towards the line. Currently in 7th position, personal best, middle sector. Can he improve? Yes, he goes up to 5th place on a 8.2. So 2.7 seconds off the lead at the moment. Oh, he's just Haranada there. Just looked away for a second. He had a massive, massive moment there. And he had to escape back to the pits, which is a fortunate benefit of coming sim racing. You have the ability to just jump back to the pit lane, which is pretty nice. Something you can definitely take for granted a little bit on this track, because it is so long to go and go around again, either for an in lap or an out lap as well. And Jesper Pedersen actually is on a pretty good lap. He's pretty much matched what Brioni did in the first sector. Need to have a look at what he is doing in that burst car. This is going to be a very quick car, I believe. And hopefully they can have a nice race. Looks like it's going to be a good battle between the Musto GD car, the burst car, and potentially also Drillers as well. The two Drillers car, and also in fourth position is the AFP number 999. So it looks like it's at least 5 teams who are right up there, but there are other ones who you cannot count out just behind them either. And just now coming up to, as previously mentioned, the essentially the better parts of the tracks. We've gone over 14 kilometers already. Though if you include the Grand Prix track, this is even further than that. Plenty of distance covered already by the time you get to this amazing part of the track. I believe this corner is called Vipperman. Over the top of that crest, awesome little corner, and down into Eschbach, I think that right hand is called as well. Oh, a little bit wide there. It's going all the way to the limit of what this BMW is capable of. Really pushing the limits here. And one thing especially about this car, this is the car that I drove when I was doing some practice laps to get some reference on the track, and it is a very bouncy car over these curbs. You really have to get the car set up nicely with your springs and dampers for the curbs here, and also the bumps in the road. As a little bit further up, we've got Michael Rowland, who is going to finish his lap, although I think he may have actually escaped from his lap, which he did. They won't be improving on this lap. And now Jesper just has to keep his foot absolutely planted to the ground. Personal best first sector purple in the middle sector. So this is going to be a big lap here from Pedersen. Might even be able to get himself on that provisional pole position and be the second car to get under the 8-minute barrier. That'd certainly be a very good feat. Our car a little bit further up the road, but hopefully they don't slow down too much to cause him probably distract him a little bit. Miss the apex, but he's going to get a little bit of a slipstream now. That's actually... Oh no. That is very unfortunate. I don't know what that Corvette hit, but the Corvette hit something. Maybe the little bit of the tyre barrier there sticking out in the background. And that is a really a real shame there, I have to say, because Pedersen was on such a good lap. But yeah, won't be completing that lap, which is Such a shame to see. Well, something that we will do that we haven't actually seen so far is actually the beginning part of the lap. We've seen a lot of the ends of the lap, so let's run you through the start of a lap here with Roy Demink for One Move Esports, the number 11 car, and hopefully he puts on a good lap here for us to have a little walk around and see this lap. And he's actually getting, wow, 2 cars there in the space of a minute getting held up by other cars, and that is such a shame because now Roy's got to go out again and do another pretty long outlap. That is a shame. Obviously, I didn't actually see which car that is specifically, but there is a range of abilities in the field, and obviously that car coming out of pits did not understand that Roy was starting a lap. Now we're looking at Ezio, who is in the SP7 category. He has taken over from Cavagno in the Porsche Cup here for Drive Games seat, and I believe he's actually going to be on an outlap, but they are currently 13 seconds off the pace, so they got a little way to catch up to HM. We have to see what Ezio is going to be able to do. We will check back on that car later to see if they can get any closer. See, there's a number of cars now who will be starting their laps. And one person that I see doing that is Paul Holt. So let's see if we can have him to have a look around the Grand Prix track. And it is a very well, I should mention it's a very sort of modern one. It has been around for quite a while now, the actual GP track itself, but it has been updated a number of times over the years, and it's now a very safe, pretty well used GP track, has to be said. And this is the start of the amazing lap that you get here at the Nürburgring. So we did watch, I think it was the crop come through here, actually come onto the back straight here of the GP track. And you already have to drive for about 2 minutes before you even get onto the Nordschleife here. Such is the way of having the full GP track for the 24 hours. Obviously the VLN run a number of different layouts, including the shorter sprint part of the GP. Now you come out to start the lap here. And this is a very nice section of corners itself. Some amazing S's just about to come up here. This is, as we said, not always the type of laps that you see, because you generally focus on people finishing their laps. This is such a tricky section. You've got to balance the car. It's going to be floating all over the place. All over the bumps, and the curbs are huge through that first section. You really have to try and be careful as you go over them. And you come up to Flugplatz, where the cars can get off the ground there if you're not too careful over the little jump. Absolutely flat out, especially in qualifying trim, as we're going to see the drivers get over 280 kilometers an hour as you flick it to the left. Such an amazing corner that, and getting it all broken down before you then go down the hill all the way down to the foxhole. And that's one thing about the Nordschleife. Even though some of these bits are straight, you're never actually driving straight. There's all these little kinks and these bumps, and you have to see what you how you can set up the car, what you're able to do over all the bumps, and get through this tricky little chicane. Or once again accelerating up a straight that isn't really straight. And you work towards the middle part of the lap. This corner here, you always understeer because it gets right tight there on the exit. Got to get all over the curb. We come for a little chicane into this turn, which I believe is called miss hit miss, because that's how you kind of take the apex. You have a really tricky kinked braking zone before you come to one of the parts of the track. I believe on the right hand side here, just as we come across this bridge, you can actually enter the Nordschleife here as well on a normal day, as we do work our way through the hills, but also some little villages that are located around the track as well. Come through the little kink where Niki Lauda had his accident all those years ago now. Or you work your way out onto this back straight, which once again is not straight. You kick your way left for quite a while. And the interesting thing here is, especially in the race trim, you may not actually get up to 6th gear here because you don't really accelerate, because what you can't see is this bit is really uphill. You don't actually accelerate that much as you come towards this really scary left-handed kick. Barely a lift here for Paul Holt, as he actually might have touched the fence there on the outside. Massive bump coming through the kink. Before you now work your way into the hairpin, or the carousel, I should say. And we work our way back out onto the latter part of the track, which is so fast and flowing, but also very tight through these corners. He actually didn't improve in that first sector. He is the only person out on a hot lap at the moment, I believe. We'll stay with him, see what he can do, if he can try and improve further down this circuit. He is missing a few apexes here and there, so maybe not 100% comfortable with how the car is handling. I do wonder if maybe as we come towards the final hour of qualifying, if they will have a driver swap or something of the sorts. Awesome section here. Go over the jump, bang it down into 4th. Get back flat out through all these corners. Now seeing on the screen Jordan Weeks, who is currently in that HM car. He's actually a bit of a specialist in that sort of machinery in the Porsche Cup. So that is probably one reason why they are so far ahead of the Drive Game C entry. As now got some more people on some laps. We've got Bidamari and Cynic both doing personal best in the first sector. Paul Holt doing a personal best in the second sector, as he comes towards the final lap. What top speed is he getting to? So he's going to be getting to over 280 kilometers an hour. What can he get to before going on the brakes. I think it's about 284. You actually lose 10 kilometers an hour just going over all those bumps. Pretty incredible. And let's see if he can make any improvement. Currently in 10th position. And no, he's a couple of tenths off his time. Personal best in the final sector as well. But did not improve overall. But someone who is improving is Henry Sinek. Halfway around the lap at the moment. Or the 777 car for Regen Drillers Esport. And Henry, he actually did, I saw he did a race at this track a few days ago as well. So obviously getting in some practice in some other competitions as well. Also in this car, in the 720S, which is certainly the arguable favourite in the in terms of the BOP of the GT3 category. And Drillers with a slightly different livery, going back to their more old school grey livery, as he's actually going to abandon that attempt. That's Balash Kish in the 1-2-3. Personal best middle sector. He's working his way towards the final couple of corners. And where can he put himself? Personal best middle sector. Decent first sector. Currently 3 seconds off the pace. And he goes up to 6th, so it's an improvement there. For the 1-2-3 car, as we have now headed into the final hour of qualifying. And Vidimari is also on a lap for the Pasta alla Norma raging team. And I'd expect these guys to be a little bit quicker. Maybe they'll be doing a driver stop at some point, although I know that they were actually driving a different car up until last night. So maybe they haven't had the most practice in this particular chassis, but let's see if they can improve. 2 personal bests so far, and they improve and jump up 1 position to go ahead of the 1 move car actually. 3.3 seconds off the pace with a 8:03. So it's actually some really close times here. There is 6 teams all within a second of each other between 4th and 9th. That is really great to see. That is going to be a nice competitive race. So now jump on board with Jos Araneda, working his way towards the last couple of corners at Tiergarten. Doesn't crash into the fence this time, so that is always going to be an improvement. He's done a personal best first sector. Can he jump up? Yes, just 1 position goes ahead of the Fair Racing team car into the top 10 there for Jos Araneda. The car we haven't particularly spoken about so far is this car, which I believe is the number 15 Simply Race car. They've got a couple of decent drivers there. They've got Eric Strana, Matt Webb, Matt Goodger-Scott, and also Christian Kelly. So this is going to be a team definitely to potentially look out for. They are 16 seconds off the pace, which I am assuming is because they haven't set a proper lap, because from what I know of these guys, they are not that bad. They were one of the closest challengers to the Musto GD Esports car in the GTE category at the 12 hours of Sebring. And they are currently on a personal best in the first sector as well. Jamie Tatui is also on a lap a little bit further up the road, so we will jump on board with him first to see if there's going to be any sort of improvement. Tiziano Brioni is also working his way around the track as well. A little bit further behind us. Jamie actually goes wide there, coming out onto the Dittinger. Touched the grass, too much speed, and he will have to go for another lap. So we'll jump on board again with Matt Webb, as I believe Brioni is actually on an outlap as he lets Matt Webb through there. As now Webb is coming towards the final third of the track. Let's see what this McLaren can do. Touching the apexes pretty well through these fast corners. Definitely doesn't look like a car who is 16 seconds off the pace. Although they are about almost 6 seconds off in that first sector. Having said that, but as we mentioned previously, it is easy to look like you're okay on pace, because there are so many corners here. If you lose a tenth every corner, and that is obviously going to add up quite a lot when there's 180 corners, which is probably the case of this car. But personal best also in the middle sector. But again, about 3 seconds off. So we're looking about 9 seconds off at the moment. But this might still put them up to about 13th place if my maths does me good, as he comes through the final chicane to work his way to the start-finish line. We can see what sort of lap time Webb has been able to put. Have a look. Does he jump up? Exactly 13th position. And it looks like he's actually going for another lap, maybe. So that is a strategy that I was saying. Potentially some drivers are going to do multiple laps in a row, but we'll have to see. As Tiziano Brioni is now starting another lap. Yeah, current pole position sitter with 53 minutes to go. And also the only man into the 7 minutes so far. I mean, you can see just from your tower on the left as well, that it is just so close. Only 4.5 seconds for the top 10, which is quite something, as Tiziano there gets past the Simply Race car, who obviously won't be continuing. As seen before, the first sector is quite a long way around, about 4 minutes and 13 seconds, maybe 4 minutes and 14 seconds I would expect Brioni to be doing. And that car looks really nice there through these corners. Let's see if he uses all the curb there and keeps it nice and tight. Car is looking really good over these curbs and bumps. Looks very nice to drive, putting a lot of confidence in the car, in the driver, which makes sure that they can push even harder. And using every inch of the road there. Now let's see how the car handles as we come over these bumps and everything. Through the foxhole, then come back up the hill. Oh, a little bit sliding. Lots of sliding all over the grass. Can he keep it? No, he can't. So that's going to be lap over there for the Musto car. Nikos Papamihail, who is someone we haven't currently spoken of in the number 14 car. Currently down to 17th place overall. And unfortunately, I don't have information on actually who his teammates are, but they're currently down in 17th position, which is also known as last, unfortunately, for them, with an 8:13.7. But he's only 1 second and 2 seconds for the cars ahead. So if he managed to make an improvement, which he currently is, having done a personal best first sector, he will be able to make an improvement. Hasn't improved in the second sector, though. And a number one of the Callaway Corvettes coming down the back straight. And this is actually the first I've heard of this driver or even this team. So we'll have to learn about them as the race progresses and see if they're able to make further improvements in the race. As he works his way out of the final corner, if they can make an improvement and jump up the field. They do make an improvement, but they do not improve their position, still down in 17th place. Yeah, so while we watch Jesper Pedersen work his way round the lap, we will take a quick commercial break and we'll be back with you in a couple of minutes.
Communication. It started out as a conversation between two people, but as time went by and people's needs became greater, they developed more ways to communicate. Businesses today need to minimize incomplete connections. Therefore, it is critical that they provide optimal service. Xilinx desktop, mobile and web applications can process everything from normal calls and callbacks to chats, emails, and social media inquiries. Let Xilinx liberate your business.
Simplexity is a Danish designer and manufacturer of high-grade sim racing platforms. Their 3 different levels of platforms come in a variety of colors and configurations. Choose from the V4, built from 40 by 40mm extruded aluminium profiles, the V8 built from 80 by 40mm profiles, and the high-tier V12 built from 160 by 40mm extruded aluminium profiles. Prices range from 470 to 750 euros. Go to facebook.com/simplexity.eu and start a messenger chat to inquire more about the options for colors and customization.
And we're back here for qualifying for the GTR 24 hours of the Nürburgring. As we are just seeing Ezio there go off. And the, I just talking about the SP7s, I believe the HM team have actually left the session, so maybe the gap was so big that they thought that they don't need to set any more laps. But hopefully they come back in the last 45 minutes. But we are now watching the end of the lap for the burst car. Well, not really the end of the lap. They're about 2/3 of the way around. Oh, as Pedersen goes really wide there. Can he keep it going? Yes, just about. It's always good because, as I mentioned before, the outlap is very, very long here. He is on a decent first sector. Obviously, second sector we won't know for about another minute or so, but it's certainly going to be a bit slower if that slide at her act is telling us anything. There's a few other cars out there at the moment. We've got the 999 AFP car with James Zuber. Although he's actually backed out this lap as Pedersen getting really wiggly there, and he's actually backed out this lap as well. A couple of drivers starting to make a few mistakes, as they've already been qualifying for just over 2 hours now. Got the Aston Martin 123 here. Balish Kish still in that car for Simco as he works his way out onto the Desiger once again. And he is currently on a personal best first sector, decent middle sector as well, as he works his way down. As you can see, there is cloud all in the sky, but unfortunately for us as commentators, it is not raining, because that's always quite entertaining. I'm sure the drivers do not want to see the rain come, but it is certainly very cloudy. And maybe we'll get some rain tomorrow in the race. As you now got Kish working his way through. Lush Kane out onto the start-finish line to see if he can improve himself. Currently in 6th position. And he improves up to 5th. Just by a couple of hundredths, going ahead of Jamie Tatui in the Drillers Academy 888. So good to see some improvements there. And a car I don't think that we mentioned so far is the 777. Got poor Lingard in the car at the moment. 12.7 seconds off, but he's doing a personal best in the middle sector at the moment. So this could be a potential improvement. And I believe this car actually only has 2 drivers with Morten Nørgaard, which could be quite interesting, because 24 hours is a long time. Driver fatigue is definitely a thing. But can there be an improvement? Yes, there is, up into 14th place with a 8 minute 10 second. He is 11 seconds off the pace though, so yeah, still some improvements can be made there. As Michael Rowland goes up into 4th position, just behind for Butler Powell. So a nice improvement there. Still 2 seconds off, but it's been about potentially an hour now since Brioni set that lap time to go pole position. But he is still there. So they are looking pretty good for the pole position at the moment. Pim van Ark is now in the car for Fair Racing Team. Paul Holt is out of the car in the number 33. Personal best first sector for Pim in a another McLaren here. I'm surprised how little accidents we've seen here at Tiergarten, because it is quite a difficult, tricky little section of the track. And especially if you see that you're up on your delta, see you're going to make an improvement on your lap. You just spent 16 minutes of your life doing an outlap in your quali lap. You don't want to waste it, but Pim managed to get there through there safely, but doesn't improve on his lap time. There was another car we haven't quite mentioned yet, is the 24 guard racing car. Unfortunately, I don't have any data who the person is driving this car. It just says 24 guard racing. And they are currently 12.7 seconds off the pace, but are improving in the first sector, which is always good to see. Another one of our Corvettes here. Good to see some dedication from the teams who still use this car. And I do wonder if we'll ever see a newer Corvette with the C8 being a brand new car, especially in the GTE category. Not sure if that's ever going to come to GT3s, but if it is, it'd be good to get the Corvette in rFactor 2. Always nice having a bit of variety in the GT3 category. Or having said that, there is still plenty of variety here at the Nürburgring 24 hours here. It's looking like a fairly solid lap, has to be said. Although Sector 2 is still a little way off, so we won't know quite just yet if he's making an improvement, but he's hitting all his apexes pretty nicely. It did look like there was a bit of understeer in the car at a couple of the corners, so that is potentially not helping. As we mentioned earlier with Jamie Tatui, his car looked very oversteery, and that is certainly quicker in qualifying, getting that front end in. Yeah, it's looking like a fairly solid lap. I wouldn't be surprised if this is going to be another improvement. As we come out onto the Düsseldorf, we'll see the second sector split, and we'll get a feel of if he's making an improvement. He will need 8 seconds to get into the top 10 though. So that might be a little bit of a stretch, but even if he can get a couple of places up the grid, that could be good. Yep, personal best in the second sector. As he works his way down long back straight, then you start coming uphill and the revs start decreasing, and you work your way back down the hill again and you speed up 280 kilometers an hour. We work through the little kink and into the final chicane. So it looks like there is a little bit of understeer in that car, so maybe that's something for them to improve on overnight before the race starts at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Do they make an improvement? They do, jump up to 13th place, so a nice little improvement there. Getting into 13th position. And it seems like there's a lot of drivers currently on outlaps. So we will see as they work their way around what they do. We've got 35 minutes left, but with it being such a long outlap, this might only be 2 more attempts for most of these drivers. So they're going to have to try and make these count. Though, as previously mentioned, qualifying isn't the absolute most important thing, but it is quite a big difference starting at the front of the pack to starting at the back of the pack. Especially when there's 20 cars out on the field, you don't want to be getting held up behind any of these drivers. I believe Henry Sinek is actually starting his laps. We'll see how this goes. He's currently in the GP part of the track, which everyone knows very well. Sending it all over those curbs. Full commitment there from Henry Sinek. Oh, massive slide there though, coming out onto the Nordschleife. Going to lose him a little bit of time as he works his way down to Hutzenbach. Easy flat out there, especially in qualifying trim. Then this awesome section of corners where he's hitting the apexes nicely. Sending it all over these curbs. The car is reacting pretty well to that, as he now works his way out onto the Kribbelbecker Hurt. And up over the little jump of, or into the kink of then Flugplatz. Oh, massive slide there on the rear. Driller's definitely gone oversteery car. And Schwedenkreuz, I think this is called. Again, really massive sliding on the rear. So this driller's car is really set up for oversteers. They come around Arenberg down the hill. Down through the foxhole. And it's certainly a pretty hectic lap so far for Henry, and he's missed another apex. So, yeah, he'll be backing out of that one. We've got Pedersen on his lap. He did have the provisional pole position for quite a while before Brioni managed to take it away from him. He needs to find almost 0.6 of a second. So a little way for him to improve. And especially around such a long lap, that is really going to be quite difficult for him to make up. But that is what he's here to do as we head towards the final half an hour of the qualifying session. So they've had 2 hours and 15 minutes so far. And currently Brody is leading the way for the SP9s. And that is the Musto GD Esports car. And in the SP7 category, HM Engineering with a lap time, I believe, set by Pev is leading the way, although they have actually left the session so far, which is why they are not on your timing screens on the overlay. Let's see what Pedersen can do in this BMW. turning very early there to get the car right down to that curb. And keeping it nice and tidy down the hill. You have all this big compression. Then this kink really makes you want to take loads of speed, but yet you can't do too much, as you have to get it slowed down for this almost sort of double, triple chicane sort of complex of corners, where the curbs are absolutely massive. And this BMW is really, really bouncy, as you can see. You don't really want to be hitting those curbs. You want to get as close as you can to them. That corner feels like it never ends, but this is looking fairly nice so far. And he's hit all those apexes nicely. Can he make this one? Yes, he does. So Pedersen is looking on top form here. But it's still very easy to throw away a good lap here at the Nordschleife. And he comes through sector 1, a couple of tenths down. So it is still looking like a pretty good opportunity. But he does need to find those extra couple of tenths coming through the second and third sector. A little bit further up the road from Pedersen actually is Gazzola, who is still in the Drive Game seat entry SP7. And I do wonder if they will potentially catch each other towards the end of the race as well. End of the lap, I should say, sorry, not the race. Because, as we've previously mentioned, there is a fair pace difference between the two categories over the course of the whole lap. For instance, Gazzola's time is 38 seconds lower than Pedersen. This is still looking like a pretty nice lap from Pedersen. And this good lap is continuing for him. He is catching Gazzola quite a lot. I do expect them, but if he is lucky, he'll actually catch him on the letting the hurt. And then that will be the perfect chance to potentially get a slipstream. And he is getting to the absolute limit of this BMW. He is looking very nice. As you see, Zola is there, and he's actually gone for a little spin, I think. Hopefully he doesn't rejoin the track in the way of Pedersen. Oh, that is so unfortunate. Gazzola possibly didn't know he was coming and just slightly came out. And that was looking to be a good lap as Vidimari improved up to 8th place in the background. That is such a shame for Pedersen. He was looking like he was on a very good lap. Unfortunately, that is, I think, now 3 laps that have been ruined by some incident ahead, unfortunately. But that is what happens when you have a qualifying session with loads of different cars can often run into each other. And yeah, Pedersen just saying in the in-game chat, he's not very happy about that, but who would expect him to be? He said that that was the pole lap, but he's still got one more attempt, or two if he wants to take some extra fuel. But there is now, I believe, not enough if you press escape, actually, there'll be just about enough time to get 2 runs in. We're coming to the final 25 minutes of the qualifying here. As we've got Alvaro Incausti here in the number 27 machine. Currently 7.4 seconds off the pace. Hasn't improved in the first sector. Working his way up to the little carousel, or coming out of the final corner onto the Döttinger. He will just have to sit there flat out and see what he is able to do. He is personal best in the middle sector as well. Also got Pim van Ark on a lap. We'll check with him after Alvaro here finishes his lap in the number 27. He does need to improve by over 2 seconds actually to make an improvement on the position. Now he comes out of the final corner. And where can he improve himself? Can he get any positions or just the lap time? And he does improve the lap time by a second, so good job there. But does not improve on the position. So a few drivers on track now. We've got Henry Cynic out there. We've got Sarah Naders out there. Jesper Pedersen also as well. There are quite a few drivers lining up to take their potentially final laps here. Brioni just going out there as well. Henry Cynic is pushing his way, so we'll see what he can do on this lap. As actually Michael Rulin is a bit further up the road. He's gone personal best in the first sector. It's interesting that quite a few of these cars have had the same driver in for the whole session. Because with it being a 2 hours and 45 minute session, that is a lot of driving for some of these drivers. And the person to complete the most laps so far is Michael Rulin and James Zuber, both on 24 laps. But also Cynic and Brioni on 22 laps as well. There's quite a lot of driving for these drivers. Especially as they'll have to make sure they're all ready to go tomorrow at 2 o'clock Central European time for the start of the 24 hours. And I am looking pretty forward to the 24 hours, as we said, because it is one of the best events of the season. And it's good that GTR are doing this as a good special event with €1,000 prize to be won as well. So plenty to fight for these top drivers, teams. Michael missing a couple apexes there, goes really wide. And looks like that hasn't invalidated his lap. From the in-game tools anyway. So he's still continuing. As we now reach 20 minutes to go in the qualifying session. Have to wait to see what he does in the middle sector. He still has that time in his pocket from improving in the first. And into the place where Pedersen crashed. But fortunately he gets through there nicely. As Henry Sinek is doing a good first sector, 1 second quicker than what Rulin is doing at the moment. Let's see what Michael does in the second sector as he cuts the beam. He doesn't improve, but it's still a fairly decent time. As he sits there now down the Döttinger. Working his way under the Bilstein Bridge. And down to Tiergarten for potentially the penultimate time, as he will potentially only have one more lap left in it. Where can he put himself on his final lap? Potentially he improves, but not in position, stays in fourth. As Henry Sinek is about 2/3 of the way around the lap. Or drillers had to overtake a car there, but seemingly didn't lose any time. As he's getting more cars there, which was Pedersen, I think, going out to also start. Was probably going to be his final lap as well. But Henry is looking pretty on it here. Coming through the fastest kinks and corners of the track. Through Schwalbenschwanz, and then to the second carousel, where he will then get the sector split, which will tell us if he is doing a better lap or not. He did improve in the first sector, but it was still a fairly good lap. Fairly good sector. What about the lap in general? Yes, personal best middle sector. This could be a final attempt for Henry to get himself towards the front. Third position will still be pretty good for the driller's car. And it looks like these top three have a little bit of a gap to the next three. There could be a fight between the 71 and 94 and the 777 car tomorrow. And it'll be all about making it to the finish of the 24 hours. As Henry comes out the final corner, can he improve? Can he improve coming to the line? Yes, he can. Goes up to second place, only 2/10 off the pole position. That was a very nice lap by Henry Sinnick, getting himself onto the front row. We will have Pedersen's lap to look forward to soon as well, as we saw him working up to start his lap, but we will have a look at Balázs Kiss halfway around the lap. Decent first sector. As he works his way towards the carousel. He's looking pretty nice here, going nice and smooth through these corners. Very aggressive. He's currently 2.7 seconds off the pole position. So we definitely need a big improvement to try and make something happen. But it's certainly looking like a pretty good lap so far. And I believe from what we've seen as well, this is the only Aston Martin on the field. We'll see how the VOP is for him and for them in tomorrow's race. In the all-Hungarian Simco team. Working his way nicely through this middle sector. Firstly looking like it could be a good lap, but will it be an improvement? Personal best middle sector as well. But he's only got 2 more corners to go. As we're now inside the final 13 minutes of the qualifying session. You will be allowed to finish your lap if you start it within the time, I believe. Even though it is such a long lap, so there will be time to still get out and do a lap even if you leave the pits now or in the next couple of minutes. As Kish wiggled his way in the braking zone to come to the line. Can he continue that speed he improved in the middle sector? And yes, he does. Only just. But he keeps his position. As we have Jesper Pedersen on his lap. And hopefully he doesn't get held up by any traffic again, because he's had that on 2 laps now. Which will obviously be potentially making him a little bit angry, but hopefully he keeps it nice and calm, knowing that he does have the speed and the potential there, and the rubber will be getting ever greater. The potential is improving as even greater. And I think by the time he finishes his lap, he won't be able to start another. So unless he has enough fuel for another lap, I believe this might be the last lap for Pedersen, which means it is all important if he wants to get pole position here. Works his way nicely through the carousel, keeps it in there. Pretty decent exit. Just a nice overview there of the pit lane, where we will be able to have a camera during the race to see when people come in and out of the pit stops. Pedersen's hitting these apexes really, really well. Trying to replicate the delta that he had earlier before he had the unfortunate contact with Ezio Gazzola. Yeah, this is looking like a really nice, smooth lap from Pedersen, but still looking very quick. And definitely tell that he's done the practice with the way he's hitting all these different apexes. As we now come to final 9 minutes, which means you need to be leaving the pit stop if you want to get out to start your final lap. There's still a couple of people in the pit lane, so I do wonder if they're going to get that extra lap or if they are done for the session. So Pedersen didn't get a purple or even a green in the first sector, but it was still a very good time. And now what has he done in the middle sector? Personal best. In fact, that's a purple as well in the middle sector. It was a very good sector indeed, and the time is showing that, going purple. He now just has to wait for Tiergarten to see if he can get pole position here. Brioni is on a lap himself. He's in the first sector. Actually, I believe he is on his out lap. I have a few minutes to go before we start his lap, but where can Pedersen go? Purple in the middle sector, third place currently. Can he get that pole position? He's had a clean lap. Yes, he goes to pole position. 2/10 ahead of Musto GT Esports for Burst. And that was a really nice lap there for Pedersen. And looking at his first and third sector, there's still a little bit of time there, but he does not have enough time to go out. There's only 7 minutes left of the session. He does not have enough time. That means that is the final lap for that car. And that means he can do no more. He can only sit and watch the final few minutes, see if he will be able to get pole position. And now there's a few cars who will be starting their laps. We got Brony, Cynic, Rullen, and I believe Ernest Lappins is on an out lap as well. So there is plenty of action still to come here as we head to the final few minutes of the qualifying, where these drivers will be trying to get their fast laps in. So Henry Cynic is starting his lap now, coming down to turn number 1 of many. Coming through this really awkward first chicane, and then working his way out onto the Grand Prix track. So far, so good for the Drillers driver. And this will be his very final lap. He will have to make this one count if he wants to get that pole position, or at least onto that front row. Stan is 16th, the number 14 improves, but still stays in last of the SP9s. 11.6 seconds off the pace. Let's see how much commitment Henry has through the chicane. He was a bit leery here last time. He's a bit more smooth. And he had a massive slide into this corner coming out onto the Nordschleife. But again, a lot more smooth. So this could potentially be a nice improvement. Does need to find almost half a second over the 25 kilometers. So there is quite a lot of work for him to do, as we've seen it be so close between that top three during this 2,045 minutes of qualifying. But there's only 4 minutes left now. So these will be the final laps coming in and the final laps being started. As a bit further up the road, Christian Kelly in the number 15 car has set a personal best first sector. Down in 13th place though, and 11 seconds off the pace. Will Henry keep it flat out? Yes, he does, as it comes down to Arenberg. And now down Vauxhall. Keeping it nice and stable, not touching the curbs. And remember last time we were on board with him here, he was absolutely sending it over these curbs. Once again, a lot more smooth. So this is Henry Siddick on a very good lap. Clipping the curbs just the right amount. And now working his way up towards the starting to end sector 1. And it is looking very good for the 777. Now less than 3 minutes to go in the qualifying session. And Pedersen is in the pit, Ruhlin is in the pit, Tatui, Araneda, Van Ark, all in the pit lane. So half of the SP9s are in the pit lane so far. And as you see there, Brioni is also starting his lap with just 2 minutes left. This is now the final attempt for all these drivers. Before we get to the Nürburgring 24 hours at 2 o'clock tomorrow. So that will be in 16 hours after the qualifying session ends. The drivers will then be up all night driving through the green hell in the darkness. As now Brioni is on the GP track. And Henry Siddick, personal best in that first sector, so he's looking good. Christian Kelly down in 13th position in the Simply Race machine is coming towards the end He has done a pretty poor middle sector. But the only chance he's going to get another lap is if he has enough fuel to go for another lap with only 1 minute, or less than 1 minute remaining now of the session. So the drivers need to be starting their laps if they want to get that completed, or get that started, I should say, within the valid time. As it looks like now, it's only Brioni, Cynic, Kish and Pinataro out in the SP9s at the top, as Henry Cynic is continuing a very nice lap, as the timer is about to hit 0 in game, and it does now. So no more laps can be started now. This is it. This is it. The final few moments of the qualifying here. And Henry Cynic is doing a very nice lap. Coming through the carousel for the final time, using all the road. He is really pushing now, is Henry. I think he must be on a great lap as we come onto the Duttinger around Galgenkopf. And it's another personal best, very close to the purple time that Pedersen put. This is going to be a very good lap. Can he get into the 7 minutes? And therefore, can he challenge for pole position? Brioni is on a lap, remember. So he will be one to look out for. Coming down towards the end of the first sector is Brioni, but we will stay with Cynic as he comes to finish a lap through Tiergarten. Oh, he went a little bit wide there. He's going to lose a tiny bit of time as he comes to the line. What is Henry Cynic going to do? Is he going to put himself on pole position or just the front row? Goes to the front row. And that final chicane caught him out because he was only 3/100ths of a second. 3/100ths of a second he was to pole position. If he hadn't had that little mistake in that final chicane, that could have been it. Now our eyes turn to Tiziano Brioni for Musto GDE Sports, who actually has abandoned his lap. He has abandoned his lap, so that looks like Pedersen has got pole position here, just in front of Henry Cynic. Before we go to Tiziano Brioni on the second row with currently Michael Ruhlin, who's also in the box, as well as Ernest Lappins in 5th. So it is Balázs Kiss who is going to be charging for that improvement, but he has gone off. But this could be it in terms of the positions for the grid for tomorrow's 24 hours of the Nürburgring. As we have in Chelsea here in the number 27 machine. But in terms of your pole positions, I think that is going to be Jesper Pedersen on pole position for your SP9s, and it'll be HM Engineering on pole for the SP7s. The Burst have the upper hand with the €1,000 prize, but there are still 24 hours of racing tomorrow where anything could happen, including the chance of rain, which will always spice anything up. Any race that has rain will always be a nice display. As we now have the 27 working its way, and I can tell you this is the final car out on track, so this is the very last lap of the qualifying session. But the big talking point is that Burst have got the pole position for the SP9s, and what a lap it was by Pedersen. Cynic so close, but couldn't quite make it work. And this looks like it's going to be a really, really close race. 3 cars into the 7-minute barrier. then Rulin, Lapins, Kish, Tatui, all just behind them. So I think this is going to be a fascinating 24 hours tomorrow, which will begin at 2 o'clock Central European time tomorrow. And it'll be shown on Sports Extra as well, which is great to have a TV company showing the action. And they'll be showing the full 24 hours as well, which is really great to see. This is looking like a pretty decent time so far. Well, we haven't quite got to the second sector split. It looks a little bit more slightly over the limit as he slides there. Coming through the Stefan Beloff S to finish this part of the lap. For Schwab-Schwantz and the carousel. Although he's got really wide there, he's going to have lost a little bit of time. Now coming through the carousel, sliding it all the way. I don't know if this is going to be an improvement. Tiny lift before coming out through Gelgenhof onto the Duttinger Hurt. Personal best middle sector despite all those little mistakes. Currently 6.8 seconds off the pole position time. He will need 1.3 seconds to improve his starting position to fair racing team. But this certainly doesn't look like it's going to be getting far into the top 10 if it is an improvement. So into Tiergarten for the final time of this qualifying session. What can he do? Gets on the power nicely. This could be a nice third sector from him. And for the final lap of qualifying here for the Nürburgring 24 hours, where can he put himself? Does not improve just off his personal best, but that is going to be Burst Esport on the pole position with Jesper Pedersen getting that one. So that is going to be him in prime position to get that €1,000 prize tomorrow. Then we've got Henry Sinek in the 777 Drillers car. Then Tiziano Brioni is going to be in third for GD Esports. Michael Rulin in fourth for Butler Powell. Then AFP in the 999 with Ernest Lapins to round out the top 5. In your SP7s, HM Engineering got the pole position and then silently left the building as they realized they had the pole position time in the bag. Ezio Gazzola couldn't really improve, and they were, I believe, 12 seconds off the pace there in the SP7s, but you can see the results on the screen. And that concludes the qualifying here for the Nürburgring 24 hours. What we'll do is we'll go to a commercial break, and if some people come for an interview, then we'll speak to them afterwards. So we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Simplexity is a Danish designer and manufacturer of high-grade sim racing platforms. Their 3 different levels of platforms come in a variety of colors and configurations. Choose from the V4, built from 40 by 40 mm extruded aluminium profiles, the V8 built from 80 by 40 mm profiles, and the high-tier V12 built from 160 by 40 mm extruded aluminium profiles. Prices range from 470 to 750 euros. Go to facebook.com/simplexity.eu and start a messenger chat to inquire more about the options for colors and customization.
Communication. It started out as a conversation between two people, but as time went by and people's needs became greater, they developed more ways to communicate. Businesses today need to minimize incomplete connections. Therefore, it is critical that they provide optimal service. Xilinx desktop, mobile and web applications can process everything from normal calls and callbacks to chats, emails, and social media inquiries. Let Xilinx liberate your business.
So that concludes the qualifying here for the Nürburgring 24 hours by GTR24H. The race starts at 2 o'clock Central European time tomorrow. The stream will be starting a bit before that, so make sure to check out on the various streaming platforms or Sports Extra if you've got that available to you. So we will see you tomorrow for the 24-hour race, and hopefully have a nice race and maybe a bit of rain. But until then, we thank our sponsors and we thank you for watching, and we will see you tomorrow.